Hi everyone, in this presentation we will discuss delimitations and limitations in research. Every study will have limitations and delimitations, and it is important to identify them and discuss how you will address and offset the limitations of your study. I will talk about the concepts in this presentation, and I encourage you to review the examples on Moodle to view how limitations and delimitations are written in a research proposal and methodology chapter. Let's first look at delimitations. Delimitations are factors within your control and define the boundaries that you set in order to create a manageable and researchable study. Limitations are also understood as methods to define the scope of your study. A tip that may be helpful is remember that you define your delimitations. Here are a few examples of delimitations. Describe your subjects or participants. In this example, we are looking at first-year international students who hold an F1 visa and play on the women's soccer team. You should also describe the location of your study. In this example, we are looking at small, private Catholic colleges in the Northeast. Make sure that you identify why you have selected this location. You may state that this would allow you to complete more face-to-face interviews or focus groups. Depending on the nature of your research questions, you may also identify time as one of your delimitations. For example, if you are interested in learning about international women's perceptions at the end of their soccer season, you would state that you are collecting data at the end of the soccer season, perhaps in November. Limitations are factors beyond your control that could pose weaknesses to your study. General examples of limitations include external factors such as the political or economic climate, time period, administering the same pre-test and post-test, and researcher bias. I want to emphasize researcher bias as most of you will include this limitation in your study. It is highly likely that you have selected a topic that you are personally connected to, and we certainly encourage this. However, this implies that you bring a certain and expected bias to your research. Here are 4 examples of limitations and strategies to offset the limitations. Note that the L is an abbreviation for limitation and S is an abbreviation for strategy. One limitation in quantitative research is if you are doing a causal comparative or quasi-experimental study and you include the same questions on a pre-test and post-test. A strategy to offset this limitation is to put questions in a different order on a post-test and administer a pilot test. As a reminder, a pilot test should be incorporated in quantitative and qualitative research. This allows you to practice your data collection and gain important feedback that will help you make appropriate changes to your survey instrument or interview guide. Another limitation is researcher bias. In a qualitative study, you could employ member checking and keep a comprehensive audit trail. A third limitation is longevity versus a cross-sectional design. A strategy to offset this is to carefully and intentionally select a time period as to when you will collect your data and explain why you have chosen that time period. A final limitation is that you may be limited to one school. To offset this limitation, you should state that you are generalizing your findings for that particular school. You may choose internal versus external validity and reliability and state that examining other institutions is beyond the scope of the study. Please contact your instructor if you have any questions about limitations and delimitations and how they apply to your particular study.